Merab is an absolute machine. He went into the fight dealing with some injuries. He had a back injury, he had a leg injury. He said for the fight he felt good, but good for a machine essentially. He's a fighter at the end of the day. Feeling good could be like, my leg's kind of broken, but I'm okay. He said his injuries during training camp didn't allow him to wrestle well. He wasn't able to get out of bed. He had 2 cuts on his leg that got infected. He said he got the injury from the stair stepper during his training camp that cut open his leg, requiring 27 stitches to close up. He was worried he wasn't going to be able to fight, but still continued to train. And this is what Merab had to say in the post-fight press conference. He goes, quote, "I broke my back in training camp, spinal, and it was some days I cannot get up from the bed. I was laid down and I don't have a training camp and I don't have Habib Nurmagomedov to help me to train. Some days the PI was closed. It was Christmas and it was New Year's and weekends, and it happened a couple times. Umar was there and the security goes, 'I'm sorry, we cannot let you go in. I'm not making this excuse. You're a fighter. You've got to find a way to win.' It might happen, maybe, I don't know, but after he disrespected me, he says so many BS things. I don't know. As a fighter, I respect him. God bless him. I wish him all the best, but it's a fight. But guess what? Who broke his hand?" Unquote. Pretty much taking shots at Umar for saying his hand was broken and saying he had to deal with a back injury and a leg injury going into the fight. What's a hand injury to that? And he's saying that Umar had, different kind of privileges, training with Habib, him being at the gym and the security not allow him to go in because Umar was there. I don't know if that happened the other way. I don't know if there were times where Merab was at the gym and Umar wasn't let in. So it diminished his training camp, which he only had 6 weeks to train for, not give him a lot of time to recover from these injuries. And he said the cut on his leg finally closed during fight week. So he did not have 100% training camp, but Umar had a better training camp going into the fight. And Merab still won. Now, of course, we have to also talk about Umar's injury. They say he had a broken hand. It looks like maybe his finger is broken here. It's like indented right there, but it's also swollen on the side of an index knuckle, which is crazy because the index and middle knuckles are the hardest to break. It's usually the back 2 knuckles, not the front 2. But Umar was still throwing the left hand throughout the fight, still landing the shot, but can you imagine how difficult it was for Merab Dvalishvili to go through training with an injured back and injured leg, knowing that he is a wrestler and he's going up against another high-level wrestler in Umar, and he has to be prepared to defend those takedowns, which he did. He was only taking down 2 out of 15 takedowns, defended the vast majority of them without even having the ideal 100% training camp to be ready for that wrestling, and sometimes even making it look easy to defend those takedowns, and also, checking leg kicks, throwing kicks with his right leg. Merab is something else. He's just like a different level of tough. It's probably that all those years in construction, back-breaking work, pun intended, but very difficult job, And the back injury isn't only affecting the wrestling, it's affecting everything. Throwing punches, throwing kicks, even footwork. Moving around the cage is difficult when you have a back injury. And imagine training at the volume that Merab Dvalishvili does. Like, imagine going that hard in the training room. His normal has to be training extremely hard. And for him not able to do that, again, stylistically, what was supposed to be his most difficult fight in his career, a fighter who can wrestle with him, a fighter who can strike with him, a fighter who has shown good cardio before, and Merab didn't even get the ideal training camp, but still had the mental fortitude to go in there and still putting on a great performance with that insane cardio. And that's the thing, the cut on his leg did get infected. If you see in the post-fight press conference, he shows the journalist his leg still looked like it was infected. And for him to show that level of cardio with an infection, which was most likely staph infection, is absolutely wild, man. But now, what is next for Merab? So he said he wants to fight the best guys in his weight class, but he believes he beat everybody there is to beat in the weight class. He thinks Sean O'Malley is a good challenge for him because he has that knockout power and stuff. And he said he's willing to come back as soon as the UFC wants him to come back. That is great to hear from a champion, man. Hopefully Merab continues to be an active champion because he did take this fight quickly after the last one, right? But who is there for Merab to fight now? Because at Bantamweight, the top contenders are the guys he's already beaten. He beat Sean O'Malley a few months ago. He just beat Umar. He beat Peter Yan last year, who should be the #1 contender. Corey Sandhagen and Davidson Figueiredo are coming off losses, so they don't make sense for a title shot. Marlon Vera's coming off a loss. Merab beat Henry Cejudo. Song Yadong's too low in the rankings, and everybody else after that is as well. Who in the bantamweight division should be fighting Merab? Is it Peter Yan again? If there is a bantamweight right now that fights Merab, it is Yan, 100%. I know they were saying maybe it's Sean O'Malley. Sean O'Malley should not get another title shot until he gets a non-title win. He should be fighting someone like Corey Sandhagen or Umar Nurmagomedov and give Yan his title shot, especially if Merab wants to fight, let's say in the summer or something like that. It would be perfect to have the rematch with Yan, who's coming off a 2-win streak. He beat Song Yadong and Davidson Figueiredo. He deserves a title shot more than any other bantamweight right now. So in a meritocracy, Jan deserves a title shot more than anybody else in this weight class. Is it an interesting fight? It's interesting to see how Jan has adjusted from the first fight because he got dominated by Merab, and stylistically, it's the worst fight for Jan. He's generally a slow starter. Even if he got better at that, I don't know if it's enough to stop Merab's early onslaught, throwing out constant volume at Jan. But at the end of the day, man, we want to see these champions defend their belts and mimic what the legends, the greatest of all time in their weight classes, have done, right? Dominic Cruz defended his belt 5 times. Guys like Anderson Silva and GSP and Jose Aldo and Demetrius Johnson. That is the accomplishment that these champions need to do at this point. Defend the belt as much as possible. But if he gets 3 title defenses and he wants to move up, that's a different thing. But it'd be great for these champions to get as many title defenses as they can. And for Merab, that next opponent should be Petr Yan. The only other opponent could be Alexander Pantoja moving up, which I would think is a secondary, right? I think Merab versus Yan is the better fight for both weight classes because, yes, Pantoja is like, what, 9-0, 10-0 against the top 15? But it'd be also great to see him defend against the next contender, which seems to be Kai Kara-France because Manel Kape is fighting Brandon Royval. And he did beat Kai Kara-France, but it was in the Ultimate Fighter way back. So I would like to see Pantoja fight Kai Kara-France and Merab to fight Petr Yan. And yes, these are all rematches. These two guys have pretty much beaten everybody there is to beat, especially Pantoja. But if these fighters they beat before are able to rise back up to a title shot, then the champions should defend their belt against them. So Merab versus Yan, Pantoja versus Kai Kara-France, those are the fights to do next. But if they do Merab versus Pantoja, it'd be a great fight. I think Merab is too much for Pantoja. I think he's bigger, he has better cardio. Pantoja has slowed down in fights before, but the pace of those fights were crazy. And Pantoja does have the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu to make it interesting, right? He's a very good scrambler, he's very fast, he has good punching power. He might even have more power at bantamweight than he does at flyweight. I think Merab wins, but it would be a good fight. And with that, they should have Sean O'Malley versus Umar. Have them two fight each other. Corey Sandhagen versus Davison Figueiredo. Marlon Vera versus Mario Batista. And then maybe Rob Font versus Marcus McGee or something. So that's the top 10 of the bantamweight division. I think it's an easy one to matchmake, right? Especially if you give Jan his title shot. Then, of course, you do O'Malley versus Umar. Sandhagen versus Figueiredo will be an insane fight. And I do think the winner of Brandon Royval versus Manel Kape should get a title shot against Pantoja. So the bantamweight division is very interesting. It's great to see a champion like Merab showing to be a dominant force in his weight class. This is stuff we want to see, man. And for Pantoja, he has 3 title defenses. DJ has 11. It'd be great to see these guys just defend their belts and build their legacies like that before making that big super fight. The super fights are much bigger when both of the champions have a lot of title defenses. So like if Pantoja has like 7 title defenses and Merab has like 5 title defenses, that would be a true super fight.